Okay, I put the test pack back together, but it's really very unclean right now. I just wanted to see how this thing's going to work. And I was just putting my load stuff together here when I touched a wire. I ended up popping my fuse. So my fuse did exactly what it's supposed to do. It little 5-amp fuse popped on me, so there we go. And now the meter starts up. So what it does here, I've got amp reading, I've got the volt reading 12.56, and I checked that against Manova, exactly the same thing. I've got this one here flashes. It's now flashing amp hours, now volt and VW, now WF, and back to AH, and now WH. So that's watt hours. I don't know what VW is. VF, I'm not sure. AH is amp hours. WH is watt hours. So it sits there and flashes all that. I got to get the instruction book out and look at that. And then finally here I've got watts. Well, I have no readings on any of those because I have no load running. So my charge controller is reading 12.4. This is 12.56. This is basically 12.55. So these two seem accurate. This doesn't. So now let's get this volt and amp meter up and running. All I got to do is connect it up here to its little power source. And there it goes. Now it's taking off and going. And the camera should be able to see it says 12.8 volts. I believe this is calibratable, but I'm not sure about that. This did not come with an instruction book, but there's a couple of screws in the back, so I guess it's calibratable. But first of all, you got to figure out what you want, or what the proper calibration is. I am not sure. So let's turn our load off. Well, let's turn it back on. So everything is working pretty good. The load is on, so now it's going to all this stuff. I've got 3 little 12-volt tail lights. Let's go ahead and hook one up to the ground. There we go. 0.56 amps. I'm now getting readings on all this stuff, and I think I'm gonna not concentrate on this flashing one. The volts came down a little bit. I've got 6.9 watts. How can that be? I guess that is right. I'm thinking amps. Never mind. And on this I've got 0.47 amps. 0.55 amps, so there's a little difference. The charge controller doesn't give me an amp reading as far as I know. Okay, now let's hook a second bulb up. I gotta disconnect that one. Very temporary hookup here. Just want to see what's going on. So now I'm to 1.18 amps. I'm doing 1.19 amps. It's very similar, and nothing of course on there as far as amps. Voltage is all still the same. I can do amp reading on this, but it has to be inline, and that would take some doing to make that work right now. But so it is working. 14.4 volts is what I'm using right now. Let's go ahead and connect this one up, and let's just bend this one down because these are all grounded. There we go. I got 3 lights working here, and I don't have a bulb in. I lost the bulb in this one. I was just looking at that thinking, how come only 3? I lost a light bulb somewhere around here. I hope I don't step on it on the floor. Okay, we'll find it. So I've got 2.10, 2.09 amps I'm pulling right now with this little load. I got 1.8 8.6 amps I'm pulling according to this. Not sure. This is probably going to be off, I would imagine. And what else? I don't have any other meter, so... Well, interesting. 25.5 watts right now. And I'll tell you, that's putting out a little bit of heat. It's not killing my batteries at all here. Well, it works. I am pretty impressed with this thing so far. And it seems to be... And those light bulbs are actually smelling a little strong because they're really cranked up there. Let's check some voltage here. 12.23, 12.22, 12.1. This doesn't give me the tenths on that. So I don't know. It's hard to say what's accurate. I tend to think this thing and this thing is reading about the same. So I need to rig this up in a much more permanent way, and so I can add more load. I've got halogen bulbs. I got a 50 watt halogen bulb that I can eventually be hooking up to this, but I'd like to play around with this little 12 volt stuff a little bit. And see, this meter appears to be a pretty nice little meter. It's given me quite a bit of information. Amp hours, watt hours, AP, AF, and VM. Not sure. I'm going to have to get the instruction book out and read that. So I will be back with a little better setup here, and we'll try to run this down a little bit and just experiment with it a little bit, and then ultimately I need to bottom balance this pack, but I'm going to experiment, and maybe on Christmas Day, I'll be here all day on Christmas Day, and that's just a little under a week away. Perhaps that'll be a good day to bottom balance this pack, and I want to do a specific video on bottom balancing and my understanding of what it is and all that. So I'll be back with some more fun and games with the test pack. Okay, well, I've fooled around with this for quite a while today, and I've got the GT Power RC more or less permanently mounted in there. I've got a disconnect, which I didn't need because I could just take the fuse out, so to actually disconnect everything. The charge controller, going to talk about that later when we get before I start using solar, and solar seems pretty much impossible right now. I haven't seen the sun for so long. I don't know what I would do when I see it. Probably call the UFO hotline, because it's such a rare thing to see a big orange ball up in the sky this time of the year around here. So anyway, but eventually, so then we'll discuss this solar charge controller. So got everything wired up. I've got the meter up and running. It runs on these two cells here. I've got the load. I took and kind of attached it all together. These are just signal and tail lights off I don't even know what. I don't even remember where I got them. But they are working. It's just that the whole thing doesn't work. I'd have to fool around with the wiring. But I got it to where it'll come on if I turn the load on. There we go. So only part of those bulbs are running. So I'm getting 202.3 2.28 now amps. The voltage is just about 12 because I've had it actually on for quite a while today. So it's ran the battery down. Amps here is 232, 233. There's quite a bit of difference there. As I said, the charge controller won't measure amps. I've also got the license plate light is right there. And then I've got this mirror light that was originally in my truck, and I took the lights out of it, and it's kind of cool. So according to this cheap little Chinese meter, this is pulling 2.76 amps, 78 amps. This is pulling 2.79 amps, so now it's very similar. The watt hours and stuff just keep flashing. 3.28 watts. This doesn't, of course, tell me that. It's 11.78, 11.9. So there certainly is a difference. Would like to determine which is more accurate at some point. So I've got a pretty good load on here. And as I said, I do have a 50 watt halogen that I'll eventually be getting out. But I don't know that this small pack could handle 50 watt halogen. But I definitely want to try it out on this. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and just experiment over the next 4 or 5 days. And then we come up to Christmas. But I'm just going to experiment with running this thing down. Kind of letting the pack drain down. And then charging it back up with the iMax and the balance charger. I want to maintain, or I want to be running this down and seeing if my batteries are going to go out of balance. The S pack is going to go out of balance. It should. I'm kind of counting on that happening. And then we'll just charge it back up with the old iMax, which is just right here. So it's handy. Just be able to balance charge it back up and run it down, and just kind of do that a couple of days. And then probably on Christmas Day, I plan to be home most of the whole day. I think that'd be a good time to talk about bottom balancing and actually try it.